If you've ever bought a cheap memory kit that promised lightning-fast speeds, only to discover your games stutter or your video edits choke up, you know the sting of buyer's regret. Those low-priced DDR5 modules can look tempting on the shelf, but when you finally open the box after a long day of building, the disappointment is almost palpable. So the question I keep hearing from folks on forums and in the comments is, does something like the CORSAIR Vengeance 64GB 232GB DDR5 really feel like a smarter buy, or is it just another pricey line item that looks good on paper? Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's break it down the way we all wish tech reviews would be, looking at the everyday reality of using this RAM, weighing the hidden trade-offs, and figuring out exactly who should spend the extra cash and who would be better off skipping it. First off, the category itself, DDR5 desktop memory, has been a wild ride since it launched. Early adopters were drawn in by the headline numbers, 6400 MHz speed, low latency timings, and the promise of massive bandwidth gains over DDR4. The reality, however, is that not every motherboard can actually push those frequencies, and many CPUs still operate far below that ceiling. That means a lot of the hype can feel a bit disconnected from what you'll experience in a typical Windows 11 workstation or a mid-range gaming rig. The CORSAIR Vengeance kit tries to bridge that gap with a few practical features: onboard voltage regulation, custom Intel XMP 3.0 profiles, and integration with Corsair's iCUE software for monitoring and tweaking. Those aren't just marketing buzzwords, they're the tools that let you actually make the most of the 6400 MHz rating without digging through BIOS menus for hours. If you're the kind of user who builds a PC from scratch and likes to tinker, the onboard voltage regulation is a genuine time saver. Instead of having to attach a separate voltage regulator module or worry about the power delivery from your motherboard's VRM, the memory sticks handle their own voltage requirements. In my own test build, a high-end Intel Core i9-13900K paired with a Z790 board, I installed the Vengeance kit and set the XMP profile with a single click in the BIOS. The system booted without any hiccups, and the iCUE dashboard showed stable voltage and temperature readings straight away. That kind of plug-and-play reliability is essential if you're not spending days tweaking timings for that perfect 42 nanoseconds latency. But here's where the practical side of things gets interesting. The kit's advertised latency is CL425252104. On paper that sounds impressive for DDR5, but translating it to real-world performance is subtle. In a series of quick render tests in Adobe Premiere Pro, the difference between this kit and a slightly slower 5600 MHz DDR5 module was a fraction of a second, barely noticeable unless you're processing 8K footage on a daily basis. For most gamers, the impact on frame times was even less. The sweet spot seems to be workloads that demand massive bandwidth, such as large scientific datasets or intensive 3D simulations, where the extra headroom can prevent bottlenecks. If your primary use case is gaming at 144 Hz or streaming video, the extra speed will be there, but you likely won't feel it in day-to-day play. Another key aspect is the iCUE software integration. CORSAIR has built a fairly robust suite that lets you monitor RAM temperature, set custom profiles, and even sync lighting with other CORSAIR components. I experimented with a custom fan curve that throttles the CPU cooler based on RAM temperature spikes, something you'd normally only see with high-end server memory. The result was a modest reduction in overall system temperature during long stress tests. That's a concrete benefit for people who run their machines under sustained loads, like cryptocurrency miners or AI model trainers, where memory heat can become a limiting factor. For a typical home user, however, the software's extra features may feel like over-engineering. You'll still get solid performance without ever opening iCUE. Now, you might be thinking, all this sounds great, but does it justify the price tag? The 64GB capacity alone puts it in a niche market. Most gamers and content creators get by with 32GB, and even 16GB is enough for many modern titles. The Vengeance kit's value comes from the combination of high frequency, low latency, and the convenience of onboard regulation. If you already own a motherboard that explicitly lists support for 6400 MHz DDR5 and you have a CPU that can leverage that bandwidth, you're essentially future-proofing your build for the next couple of years. That means you won't need to upgrade RAM again when you finally switch to a next-gen Intel or AMD platform, which can save you money in the long run. Who should definitely consider buying this kit? If you are building a workstation that will handle large datasets, frequent video transcoding, or you plan to run virtual machines with heavy RAM demands, the 64GB capacity and the higher speeds will pay off. Developers who compile massive codebases or engineers running CAD simulations will also notice smoother performance under load. In the gaming world, the